Alright, okay, so before the break I told you guys you're supposed to raise to steal the blinds, and I told you how big to make your bet in each situation. But now we gotta talk about which cards to do this with, right? I haven't talked about cards at all. I just said steal the blinds, you know, how big to make your bet, but your cards have to matter, right? And the answer is yes, but your cards only matter relative to your position at the table. So 9-9, pocket 9 is an early position, is much worse than having pocket 5s as the table. So I'm going to go through the names of the positions because this is very conventional terminology. So hopefully you pick this up fast because I hate to use too much terminology, but this is just so common and convenient that you basically have to learn this, but it's not hard. Okay, so the first position is usually called under the gun, UTG for short. Next position, you usually call it UTG plus 1, or you can call it 6 to button, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hands to the button. So under the gun would be 7 to button. So that's another way to call it. And yeah, so notice that really it only matters how many to button. So under the gun plus 1 at a table where there's 9 hands is equivalent to under the gun at a table where there's only 8 hands. So really the thing that matters is how many hands it is until the button. Okay? Is that clear? So that's actually an important thing to realize. Under the gun, I'm going to say it again. Under the gun at a table where there's 8 people is completely equivalent to being under the gun plus 1 at a table where there's 9 people and under the gun has 4. So that's important when you think about positions. Okay, so I just listed them all on here now. So usually so when we play tournaments in this class, there's usually going to be 9 people per table. So we're going to call the next 2 middle position, or also, and then the next one is called hijack. 3 from the button is usually called hijack or HJ. 2 from the button is called cutoff or CO. And then the button, the dealer, or BTN is the dealer. You can also use HJ minus 2 because this player is HJ minus 2. And this player is HJ minus 1. So, and then small blind, or SB for short, big blind, BB for short. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but you basically have to just memorize these terminology. But just make this thing your desktop background for Okay, so notice that when the dealer raises to steal the blinds, he only has to get through 2 players to win the blinds. That's why being the dealer is so good, right? You want to be the dealer because the dealer can get the blinds really easily because he gets to act last. He gets to make his decision last. If he sees that lots of people have raised and re-raised and gone all in, then he is full. But if you're the hoop at the beginning, you have to make a decision of whether to wager chips before you see what the other players do. So it's better to be in later position. So just a warning, the dealer button can move, right? This is kind of obvious, but you know, the dealer button isn't necessarily always here. So the dealer button can be here. The dealer button moves around the table. So when you're playing, just be careful. Okay, so now I'm going to give you some exact types of hands to raise, but not go all in. So I'm talking about the first 3 situations. So remember when we had the rule of thumb, I said how big to raise to. Now I'm going to show you the hands you should be raising from each position in the first 3 situations when you're not going all in. So I don't have like mathematical proofs of why you should raise exactly this set of hands, but empirically this is a good set of hands to raise. So okay, so the notation should be fairly clear. So ace, ace, king, king. So this is the first position as le hoot. So you're 7 from the table. So there's 8 players behind you with cards. You should raise ace, ace, king, king, queen, queen, jack, jack, ace, king, ace, AKS. That means ace, king suited. It means ace, king of the same suit. Okay, so suited hands are better than non-suited hands. I hope everyone realizes that. Because you didn't hit flushes a lot more likely. So ace, king suited, then ace, king offsuit, pocket 10s. So notice in the list I wrote here, I put the hands approximately in descending strength. So a good thing to know is ace king is worse than pocket jacks, but better than pocket tens. I mean, there are situations where pocket tens is better, there are situations where ace king is better than pocket jacks, but as a general rule of thumb, this is about where ace king goes in the hierarchy of poker hands. The best hand is aces, then kings, then queens, then jacks, then ace king suited, then ace king offsuit. Okay, so this is a good thing to keep in mind. Then pocket tens, then ace queen suited, then ace queen offsuit, then pocket nines, ace jack suited, king queen suited, pocket eights. Okay, so this is approximate, but it's good to sort of know where king queen lies relative to ace jack, relative to 8-8, etc. Like there's probably even though pocket twos has a pair and ace king does not have a pair. Ace king is way better than pocket twos. Ace king is better than pocket tens, right? So this is a good thing to know. So these are the hands I recommend you raise from this position for now. You might watch some movies of world-class players raising like 5-4 suited from this position. And the reason, even though they're not wrong, the reason I would recommend it is because hands like that, you need to be very experienced playing post-flop to raise properly. So this is sort of a tight range, this is sort of like a very risk-adverse range. These are all very good hands to raise from here, but I suggest people being fairly risk-averse, fairly cautious. So this is the range I'm going to suggest. Okay, now let's go to the next one. So at the next one, we're in a strictly better situation. So we're going to raise all the hands we raised before, right? So the hands in black are the hands that we raised from the previous position. And the hands in red are the hands I suggest you raise in this position that you didn't raise in the previous position. So I'm not going to go through all of this. You can look at this yourself. But yeah, I suggest you have pocket sevens, ace jack offsuit, king queen offsuit, ace 10 suited. So what ace queen plus means is ace queen suited or unsuited. Plus means ace king is strictly better than ace queen. So ace queen plus means ace queen suited, ace queen offsuit, ace king suited, ace king offsuit. Hopefully the notation is clear. Okay, so yeah, we'll go through. Right, so these are the hands you got. Don't worry if you don't catch all this. You can look at the slides, and while you're playing, you can just have the slides open so that you know what hands to raise. Okay, but now, wait a second. What if I have a good hand, but under the gun plus one didn't fold, right? Like previously here, when I was talking about what hands to raise, it was assuming all players before you folded. Now, what if you're in a situation like this? You have a good hand, but under the gun raise. Okay, so to figure out what to do, we need to understand something called equity. Equity is basically the probability you win the pot. Okay, so it's an expectation over two basically independent probability distributions. And the two distributions that are uncertain is, one is your opponent's hand. Your opponent's hand is a range of hands, basically, because you don't know what his hand is. So, your opponent's hands, even though his cards are fixed, you think about his cards, you think about this being a probability distribution, because you think about his cards as coming from a probability distribution. And you assign a distribution and you Bayesian update it as the action unfolds. So don't worry if you don't understand what all these mathematical rules mean, it doesn't matter that much. So it's important though that you realize that your opponent's hand, you think about it like something that's not assigned, it's a variable. And the second thing, the second probability distribution is the 5 cards, or if it's already a flop, the 2 cards or whatever, the cards that are yet to come on the table. So equity is basically the probability that you win the pot with the expectation with respect to these 2 probability distributions, these 2 main things that are contributing. Okay, so the important thing is your opponent's hand is a random thing, even though in reality it's a fixed thing, but you think about it as a random thing. So Poker Stove is a nice software to calculate this. It's fairly self-explanatory to use. Download it here, so you can do this later. Email me if you have questions. Okay. So how much equity do we need? Okay, so let's say in this situation, we got to put in $120, right? We got to put in $120 After which, how big will the pot be? If after we put in $120, how big is everything plus together? It's 120 plus 120 plus 40 plus 20, which is 300. So you would need to put in 120, after which the pot would be 300. So for this to be a profitable play, you essentially need to win approximately 40% of the time. Okay, does this math make sense to everyone? Everyone's following? Okay, so you need to win about 40% of the time. Okay, so from the small blind, because you already put in some money, the numbers are slightly more favorable. You only need to be 36% to be profitable. From the big blind, you only need to be 31%. You can calculate these numbers for yourself. Okay, so basically you need to calculate how much equity your hand has and see whether it satisfies these percentages. But there's two additional factors. One is, am I in position for a spot? So if you're behind your opponent, then you get to act after the post flop, right? Which is good for you because you get to see what they do. So you can essentially add some, you can essentially subtract from the equity. The second factor is how many players behind me do I have to worry about, right? Because in the example with pocket jacks, you can call and one of these other guys who hasn't done anything yet behind you, there's 6 players behind you, they can pick up like pocket aces and then you could be really screwed. So you have to worry about that. So these are just approximate rules. Don't quote me on these rules, but I'm just explaining factors that are in your favor and factors that are against you. So the fact that you're in position in the case of the jacks is in your favor, but the fact that there's players behind you is not in your favor. Right. So now I'm going to quickly show you how to do an equity calculation. It's very easy. So remember, this is the situation, and let's assume our opponent is taking this class, which is a fair assumption because you're playing in the league with only people from this class. So we're going to assume our opponent's probability distribution is exactly this distribution that I suggested, because we're going to assume that he has the slides and is raising only these things. Okay, so this is what poker still looks like. You can put in your opponent's probability distribution, and you put in your hand, and it'll spit out numbers telling you your equity. And this equity does take into consideration both of the 2 probability distributions I talked about. And it averages over your opponent's hands, and it averages over the 5 cards that can come on the table. And it tells you that you have 53% equity, which is way more than 40% immediately or whatever. So we should definitely at least be calling. We definitely shouldn't be holding our pocket jacks in this situation. In fact, we should be raising because we've got more than 50% equity. It's in our favor that his money is put in 1-to-1, right? If we raise, he's got to put in money, and it's in our favor. So, okay. Now let's look at the same situation with ace-queen suited. If you plug in the numbers, ace-queen suited does a lot worse than pocket jacks. It only has 43% equity. But the thing is, from the calculation from a few slides ago, it suggested that we need only 40.3% equity, which we do have, so we can at least call. And then if we look at king-queen offsuit, so king-queen offsuit, if we go all the way back, it was a hand that I suggested you would raise from this position. But now, when the Lahout has already raised, you're doing pretty terribly. You only have 32% equity. You're basically getting crushed. So calling is not good. You don't want to call. Okay, so this is something I'll talk about more in a future lecture. The thing is, even if calling is not profitable, it's possible that raising is okay. So this is a very important principle to understand. Calling might not be okay because you don't have enough equity, but raising is okay because your opponent might fold a better hand. So basically you're raising as a bluff. And raising, even if calling is bad, sometimes raising is okay. Because raising means your opponent might fold. So even if your opponent's hand is better than yours, you can get him to fold because he's threatened by the fact that you might have aces. So we'll deal with this in a later lecture. But that's one thing to keep in mind, is that even when calling isn't okay, raising, which is putting in more money, might be okay because your opponent might fold. back to opening ranges. So here, from this position, if all these players fold, this is what I would recommend. So the black is the hands that you would open from the previous position. The red is the hands that you would add, I would suggest. Suited broadways, that means any two cards. Broadway cards are cards that are 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace, the 5 highest cards. Any two suited broadways means Jack 10 suited, Queen 10 of diamonds, King 10 of clubs, King Jack of those cards, all those hands. Ace 9 offsuit, so yeah, you can look at this yourself. Okay, the next one, so now we're increasing more and more. So if you notice, the rate at which you increase the hands you open is the rate at which you increase the number of hands you can open, it grows quickly basically. It grows quicker. So any pair, any suited ace. So any pair means pocket twos, pocket threes, pocket fours. Any suited ace means ace 4 of the same suit, ace 5 of the same suit. Okay, so any ace and another card of the same suit. Any suited connector, by that I mean two connected cards that are always suited. So 5-4 suited, 6-5 suited, right? So such hands are good because they can hit lots of straights. Any two unsuited Broadway cards that we can open. So Queen 10 offsuit. Okay, so this is another screenshot from PokerStore. So in the previous slide, I said from this position hijack, I would open these hands. From cutoff, there's too many hands to list. So one convenient thing on PokerStore is they have this slider thing here, and basically you can drag this slider, and it'll tell you approximately what the top X% of hands is. So from the cutoff, basically what I'm going to say is I recommend opening the top 30% of hands. And to figure out what that is, you drag the slider to here, and it says top 30. So the purple hands are the hands that you can open. So S means suited, O means offsuit. So as you can see, so looking at this chart is actually a very good exercise. So you can learn pretty cool stuff, like King 5 suited is better than King 8 offsuit. 9-8 suited is better than King 8 offsuit. So you learn some pretty cool stuff. You sort of see relatively how important suitedness is, how important connectedness is, relative to how important it is to just have high cards and stuff. So cutoff, I'm just going to say open approximately 30%, and these are the hands you should open. Button, I'm going to say approximately 55%, and this is what the screenshot looks like. Okay, now, sorry?
The colors?
Oh, the purple ones are the hands you open. Yeah, sorry.
And the other colors, what are they?
Okay, the red means the cards are suited, and the blue means the cards are not suited. And the purple are the hands I suggest opening. Yeah.
Why is this 5 better than this?
Oh, okay. That's a very good question. So what else will I answer that? Right, so ace 5 can hit a straight by having 2, 3, 4, but ace 6 cannot. So it's better in some ways. Okay, so this is from the button. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly go through this. Okay, so now opening from the small blind. So let's compare opening from the small blind to opening from the left. So I guess I didn't finish the sentence. Okay, I should fix this. But okay, opening from the small blind, you only have to get through one person, right? You just have to get through the big blind. You also have to wager less to raise, since half of that has automatically been put in on, right? So I'm comparing opening from the button to opening from the small blind. So the button would be SAM 7717. The small blind would be VU and then UV. So advantages for opening with a small blind is you only have one person to get through instead of 2 people, so half as many people to get through. Also, you wager less to raise, since half of that has already been put in. But there's a huge disadvantage. The disadvantage is you're out of position. So if you raise from the dealer button and the big blind calls, right? The rules say that on the flop and on the turn and on the river, your opponent has to go first and then you go second, which is a huge advantage for you, right? But if you raise from the small blind and the big blind calls, you have to go first on the flop. You have to go first on the turn. You have to go first on the river, right? So in future classes, I'm going to give more examples of why going first is so much worse than going second. But intuitively, it makes sense, right? You want to go second. You want to see what your opponent does before having to make your decision. It makes sense that you're at an advantage if you're in a position. So the point is, the fact that you're out of position is such a huge disadvantage that it balances the fact that you only have to get through one player and you have to wager less to raise. So from the small blind, I'm going to recommend that you open the exact same hands that you open from the button, because it's basically a similar situation. Like, it's not really a better situation. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing except we're talking about all in hands. So all the hands that I told you to raise from before is assuming you had your effective stack was high enough such that you didn't have to go all in. But what if you do have to go all in? So, okay. So this is something that's important. That's kind of annoying, but to keep track of. But so antes are another thing about poker. So they're like blinds. They're an extra small bet that every player must put in the pot every hand. Okay, and they come in the later stages of tournaments. They're inexistent in cash games. So this is additional accounting that you have to do, and it's kind of annoying. But they actually make the game a lot more fun, because when you win the pot is bigger, because everyone can put in a very small, they had to put in a small. So this gives everyone a lot more incentive to try to steal the blinds. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So this is what it looks like. So if you look at the screenshot here, everyone started the hand with 3,000 chips, okay? And so the big blind is 200, and the small blind is 100. But everyone had to put in a $20 ante. So this ante is basically an additional blind that everyone had to wager that is up for grabs when you win the pot. So the ante makes the pot a lot juicier. It gives everyone a huge additional incentive to try to win the pot. And like, you know, your odds for calling are also a lot higher because of this ante. So everyone had to wager 20 chips to form the antes, and there's 9 players. So the antes is 180. Yeah, so notice that the sum of the antes is usually around a big blind. So before, if you raised and got the blinds, you would win 300 chips. With antes, you would win 500 chips. Okay, so it's an annoying accounting thing, but they make the game fun. Trust me, once you start playing tournaments, you'll realize how much more fun it is when there's antes, because you just win so many more chips when you win the pot, and it's fun to win lots of chips when you win the pot. Okay, so just to make sure everyone knows the name. Okay. So pre-flop all-ins. So for pre-flop all-ins, I'm going to assume that there's antes. And the reason is because, like I said, antes come in the later stages of tournaments. And in the later stages of tournaments, you're likely to have not that many big blinds anymore. So you're going to be going all in more often. So the situations when you're going to be going all in are the situations where there are antes usually. So it makes sense for me to assume that there's antes. Okay. So now, a general rule of thumb is when you're at 15 big blinds, right? So I'm saying if you have 15 big blinds, you should go all in. And so if you have 15 big blinds and there are antes, you should go all in with exactly the set of hands that you would open. It's not a great approximation, but it'll do for you. So like, you know, if you have 15 big blinds from the button and it's folded to you, this is approximately what I would go all in with for 15 big blinds. It's not completely accurate, but it's I don't want everyone to I don't want to give you a million different charts to look at, so it's a decent approximation. Okay, but of course, if the number of big blinds you have is significantly less than 15, then you can go all in with more hands, right? Because you have fewer chips, you're risking fewer chips. So Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples of some extrapolations, and hopefully you can figure out other extrapolations. So I'm going to look at under the gun all of these. So 15 big blinds, I said, if there's 15 big blinds with antes, go all in with a set of hands that you would raise with. And this is what I suggest. Pocket eights plus, ace jack suited, king queen suited, ace queen suited. Okay, now if you have 10 big blinds, I would suggest going all in with approximately this range here. So if you have fewer big blinds, you can go all in with weaker hands. This makes sense, right? Because you're risking fewer numbers of big blinds. So here I would recommend about 13.4%. So I'm trying to give you as many charts as possible from which you can extrapolate to all situations. So this is approximately what empirically it is. So yeah. Oh, the percent means the top X percent of hands. So 6.2% means the hands in the top 60 percentile of all hands. 13.4 means the top 13.4% hands. And so if we only have 5 big blinds, I would recommend 33.3% blinds. Yeah, so I'm going to talk more about this. So I'm going to go into detail about all these things in future classes, but I'm trying to just give people a picture of everything in the first class so that people can start applying basically. Okay. So another example of extrapolation, I would say, is from the hijack. So I'm going to do another one here. So 15 big blinds is the set of hands I told you to raise, which is here on the left. 10, so that's 23.4%. 10 big blinds, I would say, raise to 28%. Raise 28%. And for 5 big blinds, 50.4%. So, yeah.
Why is it that when you get fewer numbers of blinds, you make more hands?
Because you're risking less relative to how much you win. So remember I said, if you win the blinds, you win 2.5 big blinds, right? So if you have 15, you're risking 15 to win 2.5.
Okay, so if that is all your money, and then you're out of money, should that be considered?
Yes, so if it's all your money, right, so you're out of money either way. But the thing is, if you have 15 big blinds, you can fold and have a lot more time before you need to go, before all your money is eaten up by the blinds. But if you only have 5 big blinds, you can't wait as long before all the money eats up before the blinds eat up all your money. So you have more time if you have 15 big blinds, which is why you can be more conservative about what hands to pursue. Yeah.
For all the things we're talking about here, no one else has stated.
Yeah, correct. Assuming it's foolish. Because remember, like when I said, if you're first to act, you're only raising 6.2% of hands or something. So 95% of the time you're going to fold. So most of the time, everyone's just going to fold, basically. So that's why all these situations are only for assuming no one's head. Okay. So another thing to notice is that the curve, when we go from 15 to 10, we only increase by 5%. But when we go from 10 to 5, we increase by 22%, a huge number. And the reason for this irregularity in the curve of how much it increases is because when you have fewer number of big blinds, I'm saying, I just explained that you can risk more when you have fewer number of big blinds, right? But the thing is, your opponents can also call more because they're risking less to call you. So when you have fewer big blinds, you can't just risk like crazy because your opponents are going to call you a lot more frequently when you have fewer big blinds. So that's why, even though when you have 10 big blinds, you can't risk that much because you're going to get called so much. But when you have 5 big blinds, the amount that you win is so high that you don't even care if you're called because you're still going to have some chance of winning. Okay, so does position matter? So when you're going all in pre-flop, position doesn't matter, right? So I explained earlier how before, if you could go second on the flop, it's very advantageous for you. But all this is complete garbage if you're going all in pre-flop because there's no more play post-flop. So remember that earlier we said if your button opening range should be similar to your small blind opening range, because when you're in the small blind, you're disadvantaged by the fact that you're out of position. But this out of position disadvantage is gone from the small blind when you're going all in. So you can shove. So when you're going all in or shoving, you can shove a lot more hands with the small blind through the button. So let's say you have 15 big blinds and there's antes. From the button, I would recommend shoving about 55%. But from the small blind, I would recommend shoving 75%. So notice that this is huge. I recommend shoving 5-2 suited. Like this is a really garbage hand, right? But I'm confident that it's actually a good play because you only have to go through one person and you're just winning so much and winning the blinds. Okay. So I'm going to finish off with an example that also sort of answers your question about how to call hands. Okay? So suppose we're in this situation. We are Sam 7717, and this is the situation. Everyone folded to Ornibas, and Ornibas went all in, right? How many big blinds does Ornibas have? About 15, right? 3,000 divided by 200 is about 15. So he just went all in. This is the situation, and we're trying to figure out should we call. So what do? So let's look at the situation. We need to put in 3,000 chips to win about 6,500, right? So we need 46% equity. The 6,500 comes from the 3,000 you put in, plus the 3,000 we put in, plus the 500 already in the pot, right? So we need to put in, so we need about 46% equity for it to be a profitable call. Our opponent is shoving 23%, which is this range, which is these hands I highlighted on the left. So our opponent's distribution is this yellow distribution, and we have ace-8 of clubs. So should we call? So what we do is we plug it into poker stove, and poker stove will tell us that ace-8 suited has about 48% equity, which is good enough to call, even if there's 2 players left. So we do call. Okay, so Sam 7717 does call with ace-8 clubs. Okay, now we're cutie pie 314 in the big blind, and we're dealt king of hearts, queen of hearts, and we know that this is the situation for our 2 opponents. Now we've got to think, should we call? So now our calculation is quite complicated because this is our analysis. Our analysis is, we got to figure out what Sam 7717's range is. That's a hard one to figure out. We need to figure out what Sam 7717's range is. And so basically, you got to put yourself in his shoes and ask him. You perform the same calculation that he did and ask yourself, what's the set of hands that he would call with, right? And if you do the same calculation and you see which hand, so remember, Sam 7717 needed 46% equity. And if you just do some experimentation, you'll see that these are the hands with 46% equity or more. So this is Sam 7717's distribution of hands, right? So we're assuming that we don't know that he actually has 8 ace-8 of clubs, but this is his distribution. So now we got to figure out what equity we need. We need to put in 2,800, right? 200 has already been put in, so we need to put in 2,800 to win a total pot of 9,300. So we need about 30% equity for it to be a positive expectation, call. And it turns out that if you put king-queen suited, against this range, so on poker stove you can give one player this range, 22%, another player 11.8%. Give yourself king-queen suited. You'll notice that you actually have 36%, which is surprising because you don't even have an ace, right? It looks like, oh, if they have any ace, they're beating you. But the thing is, when there's 3 players, king-queen suited is a very robust hand. Because when you hit a king or a queen, you have a very big hand. So, all right, so we do call because we figured out that it's a positive expectation call. And then all the hands are flipped up. And it turns out that Sam 7717 has ace-8 of clubs, and Ornament has pocket nines. Okay, so who do you think has the most equity? So you'll be surprised. Okay, so put up your hand if you think pocket nines has the highest equity. Okay, put up your hand if you think ace suited clubs has the highest equity. Okay, put up your hand if you think king queen suited has the most equity. Alright, so I think the majority of the class is right. So these are the equities. King queen suited by a sliver. So king queen suited is 36.8. Pocket nines has 36.5. Ace 8 suited is actually behind the hand of ace. Because the 8 is not an overcard to the pocket nines. Right? So okay. Okay, so this is the flop. What hand would you take now? Okay. Put up your hand if you would take pocket nines. No way. Okay. Put up your hand if you would take ace 8 of clubs. Okay. Put up your hand if you would take king queen suited. Okay. So this is an interesting flop, right? King queen has two overcards in the straight draw. Ace 8 of clubs has a flush draw, and pocket nines is currently the same. Okay. So it turns out these are the equities. It turns out ace 8 of clubs has pulled ahead. Okay. And I want to try to guess the turn. So I'll give you a hint. I made this hand to be as exciting as possible. So an exciting turn. So it's at the top.
It would be a 9.
9 of hearts.
9.
Yeah. So the turn is the 8 of hearts. So what happens here? Okay, so what happened? So king queen suited picked up a flush draw, okay, so king queen suited picked up a flush draw, but pocket nines picked up a straight draw. So now if a queen comes on the river, pocket nines wins, king queen suited no longer wins. So every hand got held by this turn. King queen picked up a flush draw, pocket nines picked up a straight draw, and ace 8 picked up an 8. So if another 8 comes, ace 8 wins. Alright, so this is the last thing we're going to do in the class. So we're going to count how many cards. So now we can figure out an exact fraction of the time every hand takes. So I'm going to ask everyone to do this exercise, because this is very good to do quickly. Calculate, so 10 cards are shown, right? So there's 42 cards left in the deck. Can people calculate? Just take a pen. Count how many cards make king queen suited win. Count how many cards make ace 8 suited win. Count how many cards make pocket nines. So this is a good exercise. So we'll do it together. I'll give everyone it's 5 o'clock, but we'll be done in 2 minutes. So just try your best to do this. So count how many cards make ace 8. So this is tricky. Put up your hand when you have confidence. Yeah.
You have to calculate how many hands with probably the cards will make 9, 9.
No, that's not correct. No. That's okay. Okay, so I guess I'll open it. Okay, so I'm going to show what everyone answers now. Okay, these are the answers. So this was tricky. This was really tricky. Okay, so it's okay. This is really tricky, but this is good to go through on your own because this is fun. This is good practice. This is tricky. So king queen 14. Where does it come from? There's 9 hearts. 9 hearts you win for sure for king queen. Okay, so that's 9 plus any king that's not king of clubs makes you win, and there's 2 of those. So 9 plus 2 is 11. Any 9 that's not the 9 of clubs, but it can't be the large clubs anyway, makes you win. So it's 9 plus 11, but we already counted the 9 of hearts, so that's only 1, so that's 12. Okay, so far that's 12 for king queen of hearts, but there's also aces. Any ace will make you win because the ace of clubs is already out. So it's 12 plus 3 is 15, but we already counted the ace of hearts when we counted the 9 hearts, so it's 14. Okay, so you got to be careful, do not double count any of your outs. So this is a good exercise to do on your own. Okay. Ace 8, what makes ace 8? So notice that I didn't count queens for king queen suited because queens makes pocket nines, right? So queens do not count. Okay, ace 8 of clubs. Any club makes you win. and there's 8 of those, right? So that's 8, and then any of the 2 remaining 8s will make a good beat. Aces do not make a good beat, because if an ace comes, king queen has a straight. So it's 8 plus 2, so it's 10. And pocket nines has the remaining, which is 18. All right, so okay, so cheer for your favorite hand. So say like heart or club or okay, so 10 seconds. Everyone cheer for your favorite hand. What do you? So okay, so like yeah, so one thing you can say is like my heart is feeling strong. You say that and you want a heart to come in. That's exactly what you say. Clubs always get there if you want clubs to come. Okay, so all right, okay, so yeah, so okay, and then the river is the 9. Oh. Okay. All right, so that's the class. Yeah, so Cutie Pie 314 is my online name. It's kind of embarrassing, but I made it a long time ago. But yeah, okay, that's the class. Okay, thanks.